Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Leah Chantel, and today I'm talking about energetic vampires. And here are some intuitive, helpful hints to help you cope when there are people around you draining your energy. As human beings, we're wired to trust. And so we're wired, especially as women, to be committed to staying in a situation with other people when they're draining us and allowing them to take our energy. And this can come in a lot of ways because we were so used to the structures of patriarchy that were a certain way 50 years ago. We would have to show up a certain way as wives, as parents, as caregivers, and we weren't really, well, we were beginning to be allowed to have our own independence financially, but having said that, most of our role was still in the home where others would always take from us. And there's nothing wrong with being in the home and giving to others. That can be a very fulfilling, nurturing experience. But when it's forced upon us as a requirement, what happens is that as women, we feel forced to stay in situations or to be empathetic when people are actually just wasting our time and draining our energy. And what we need to do instead is practice self-care and disconnect from those situations. So I'll give you an example. Think about that friend who is constantly drinking and getting drunk and then coming to you and complaining to you about their lives. Now, if this happens, maybe one isolated incident and your friend is a really great friend most of the time, this is okay. You can lend a sympathetic ear. But if this is chronically happening, you need to reconsider your friendship and what it really means to you. Are you okay with constantly showing up to caretake a person who is not open to change? Are they ignoring your suggestions, for example, to slow down on the drinking or to not go to places like nightclubs where they're going to meet people who they feel are disappointing? And that's not to say that it's always bad to go out in the nightlife. I don't mean to generalize like that. Some people have gotten intuitive hits to go out and meet people during night hours in order to find the right connection for a job or for a business. So sometimes those connections can give you a good opportunity. Having said that, if someone's just in the habit of constantly going out, but they're not really attuned to finding good quality people or good quality situations, what will happen is that the default of some of these situations will leave people feeling sad and vulnerable and not quite satisfied with their own lives. And yet it has this addictive fueling quality to keep going and going and going and keep seeking the right person or the right situations in a place that could be a little bit dark for a lot of people. Even the Canadian government is starting to come out with research saying we really shouldn't be drinking more than 2 drinks a week in order to have optimal health and happiness in our lives. So that's just something to keep in mind. But back to the topic of energetic vampires. So we could be looking for new friendships or we could be looking for new relationships. And when we're doing that, it's actually very easy to come across people who have energy that are there to take and take and take and drain you. And especially as a woman, we're a little bit vulnerable to that when we're coming across certain gentlemen. Even if you have a relationship or a marriage, other men around you sometimes will still try to come to you for something, for some kind of validation, even if it's not cheating or anything too overtly bad. It can still be a form of energetic vampirism. And what we can do as women to improve our boundaries and improve our self-esteem are a couple of things. So let's say this person, for example, example number 1, they are a friend. One of the best ways, if they're going on and on and on about a negative topic, to very gracefully get up and leave, to break up the topic, is to just excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. That can be enough to kind of break up the conversation sometimes and get them onto a different track or onto a different conversation when you come back from the washroom. If that doesn't work, another strategy you could use is that after letting them talk for a little bit longer after you've returned from the bathroom, you can just say you have to go, that you have a priority that you need to attend to. We're all so busy these days that we really need to focus our time on our own priorities anyway in order to make sure we're healthy and happy. And so it's perfectly okay to excuse yourself to focus on a priority that is fulfilling and uplifting to you rather than focus on a conversation that's bringing you down. Another tool, let's up the ante a little bit. Let's say this is a person you can't easily get away from. Maybe they are somebody like a boss where you have to listen to their feedback. What you can do in those situations is kind of cover your stomach a little bit when you're talking to them, because our stomach is our power center. And if somebody is saying something that's a little bit, even if it's constructive criticism, it just gives you a little bit of a buffer for you to absorb that objectively and listen with a constructive ear rather than a defensive ear. And some advice is very constructive, it is helpful, and it's going to move you along to do better at work, and that's great when you receive that kind of criticism, although maybe in the moment you might need a little bit of a buffer or a little bit of time to assimilate or process it. Having said that, you also have to be careful that sometimes people are bringing you negative feedback and there's not much you can really do about it. And in those situations, if you can't get away, you need to have a little bit of a barrier mentally between that person and yourself. Of course, whenever you can, don't let your ego get in the way when there is something you can do about a negative circumstance at work. If you can take action on it, absolutely do that, and do that quickly and correct whatever the problem is. But if you really can't, and it's just negative, not useful feedback, keep a mental barrier between yourself and the other person who's talking to you, because that information is not helpful and they're behaving like an energy vampire if they're giving you negative information that you cannot easily do anything about. And that's important to know. Don't take other people's negativities personally. If it's something that they're just spewing out and there's not much anybody can do about it, then it's not helping anyone, and that's on them. That's not anything to do with you personally, and that shouldn't affect your self-esteem or make you feel badly about yourself as a person. But as an empath, we tend to suck everything in. We tend to really take things personally when people are coming to us with negativity, whether it's constructive or not. And so we have to take a moment to just realize that I need to assess the situation objectively. And this can be very helpful to know, especially in situations where you could be facing a breakup or getting fired. Remember that you can only do what you can do constructively. And if you don't have that constructive feedback, then you have to let it go. You can't absorb that negativity or make that situation about you. And finally, one of the most important things to do when you're dealing with energy vampires during the process or afterwards, if you're able to walk away, is to breathe deeply. That will reset your energy out of fight or flight, and it will help you focus on the now rather than on what just happened. Like, what the heck just happened? It's good to review the past if there's something we can do about it, if we can learn from it and realize that there's something we need to do differently in the future. But after we've made that assessment, it's time to let it go. And it's more important to focus on your breathing and the next priority, the next thing that you need to do in your life. I hope you found these tips on energetic vampires helpful. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to leave comments below. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit subscribe. I have more content coming out weekly for people in relationships who are empaths to help them navigate the world when they're feeling a little bit sensitive and a little bit raw. That's actually a gift to have that sensitivity, but we need to know how to use it. And so I'm here to guide people and help them navigate their sensitivity. I hope you're all having an amazing week and take care. Bye now.